Over just a few seasons, Stranger Things has become a genuine cultural phenomenon, one that stands alongside giants like the MCU or Star Wars. On the surface, the story of a small American town shaken by mysterious events might feel familiar, and that sense of familiarity is intentional. The Duffer Brothers openly draw inspiration from Spielberg, Stephen King, synth pop, and broader 1980s culture. Why does Stranger Things qualify as prestige television? How does it reinterpret the cultural DNA of the 80s? And why shouldn't we criticize it for leaning into nostalgia? Let's take a closer look.
All right, let's go.
The story begins in 1983. The Cold War still looms large, Ronald Reagan is president, conspiracy theories spread like wildfire, and audiences are lining up for Return of the Jedi. In the quiet town of Hawkins, 12-year-old Will Byers mysteriously disappears. Not far away, a secretive lab conducts experiments on human subjects in alternate dimensions. From that lab escapes Eleven, a girl with extraordinary abilities. Alongside Will's friends, she tries to uncover the truth behind Hawkins' increasingly bizarre events.
Do you know anything about sensory deprivation tanks? Specifically how to build one?
Sensory deprivation? What is this for?
Fun.
Stranger Things unfolds like a sprawling novel. A large ensemble cast, intersecting storylines, emotional detours, and frequent flashbacks. This novelistic structure is exactly what places the series firmly within the realm of prestige television, shows that rival cinema in both ambition and craftsmanship. Season 1 alone feels like 3 films combined. A sci-fi adventure about childhood friendship, a teen horror story reminiscent of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and a psychological drama about a mother on the brink of collapse.
Will, are you here? Okay, good.
From the very beginning, the show paints a panoramic portrait of American small-town life. Hawkins is a kind of exaggerated every town, schools, a police station, a single-screen movie theater, a foreboding forest, a mysterious lab, and later, a shopping mall. It's both recognizable and fantastical, grounded yet impossible. There is no true main character. While the core group of kids in 11 remains central, each season shifts its emotional focus. Season 1 revolves around Eleven's bond with Will's friends. Season 2 explores her relationship with Hopper. Season 3 shifts toward budding romances and adolescent growing pains. Many critics felt that the later seasons lost the childlike charm of the first, but the story's evolution is intentional. It matures alongside its characters. Even secondary characters feel vivid, making Hawkins feel fully lived in. And although each season includes a central mystery, Stranger Things isn't primarily about supernatural puzzles. It's about emotional struggles, coming-of-age anxieties, loneliness, grief, and the ever-present fear of the unknown.
I know I can be a jerk like him sometimes. And I do not want to be like him. Ever.
The Upside Down functions less as a literal dimension and more as a metaphor for the uncertainties of adolescence. Thanks to the show's expansive, novel-like storytelling, we're able to fully experience how Eleven, once a deeply traumatized child, gradually tries to become an ordinary teenager, and how Hopper, who begins as the gruff sheriff, slowly transforms into a caring and attentive father.
Hey!
The series is also a carefully composed mosaic of pop culture from the late 70s and 80s, a period when blockbuster cinema shifted focus toward younger audiences. Films like The Goonies, John Hughes classics, and Stephen King's novels centered children and teenagers, and the Duffer Brothers embraced this legacy wholeheartedly. There are 2 main ways creators borrow from earlier works: parody and pastiche. Parody mocks. Pastiche pays homage. Stranger Things is unmistakably the latter, a love letter to an era. Adults revisit the decade of their own childhoods, while younger viewers discover iconic works they may have never encountered. And although Stranger Things didn't invent the 1980s nostalgia wave, J.J. Abrams' Super 8 did something similar in 2011. It undeniably popularized it. Soon after, blockbusters and genre films began leaning into the decade once again, from it to Wonder Woman 1984 to Summer of '84. But these references aren't just decorative. They serve narrative and emotional purposes. When Eleven visually echoes E.T., the show subtly signals that she, too, is an outsider in otherwise ordinary suburban America. The mysterious egg in Season 1 recalls the alien eggs in Alien, preparing viewers for the horror to come. A shining reference parallels Joyce's frantic emotional state with Jack Torrance's breakdown. The series' eclectic style permeates every layer. The title font inspired by early Stephen King paperbacks, the Christmas light communication scene reminiscent of Close Encounters, the Carpenter-esque synth score, even the casting of Winona Ryder, Sean Astin, and Matthew Modine, beloved icons of 1980s cinema. Season 4 even features Robert Englund, the legendary Freddy Krueger. Pop culture becomes a shared language for both the characters and the audience. Comics, Star Wars, and Dungeons & Dragons help them interpret the unknown. And nostalgia has always been part of filmmaking. Star Wars and Indiana Jones referenced pulp serials from the early 20th century. Back to the Future romanticized the 1950s. The Duffers are fully aware of this lineage.
Turn around. Look at what you see.
Though the show feels like a perfectly reconstructed time capsule, it's more of a fairy tale version of the 1980s. It avoids many of the decade's social and political problems. Unlike Stephen King's It, where Pennywise embodies societal anxieties, Stranger Things presents a softer, idealized version of the era, one that values emotional warmth over realism. The series touches on subjects like government experiments, Cold War paranoia, 4th of July celebrations, Halloween traditions, and the suburban mall boom. But these remain backdrops, not commentary. Even the evil Russians plotline is more a familiar genre trope than a geopolitical statement. What the Duffers ultimately deliver is a coming-of-age story. Stylistically, the show borrows the look of retro cinema, but expresses it through a modern lens. Creative camera work, stylized transitions connecting multi-thread storylines, long single-take sequences, and richly controlled lighting all reflect contemporary filmmaking, not 80s TV. A key motif, duality between worlds, is visualized through camera flips marking transitions between dimensions and contrasting color palettes. Season 1 embraces darkness, mirroring the character's fear of the unknown. Ensemble shots showcase the Duffers' skillful staging, highlighting connections between characters. There aren't many mainstream projects centered on kids and teens that resonate equally with audiences of all ages. Like Harry Potter did for an earlier generation, Stranger Things becomes a formative story for today's youth, and a nostalgic bridge for adults. As the story progresses, Stranger Things noticeably grows up. By the time we reach Season 4, the series becomes darker, heavier, and far more emotionally demanding.
Max, stay with me. No. Max, please stay with me.
The charming immaturity of the earlier seasons gives way to the turbulence of adolescence. Saving Hawkins, and the unsuspecting world beyond it, now requires the characters to face not just monsters, but their deepest internal battles. Season 4 leaves no room for childlike innocence. The kids have entered a stage where real fears replace imaginary ones, and the stakes feel intensely personal. It's fitting, then, that the new villain, Vecna, is not merely a creature from the Upside Down, but a telepathic force that preys on psychological vulnerability. His victims are those struggling with trauma, guilt, or grief, the emotional landscape of teenage life. And in a poetic twist, the one thing that can shield them from him is their favorite music, something universally relatable to anyone who has ever used a song to escape their problems. In this sense, Vecna represents more than a supernatural threat. He embodies the inner conflicts the characters are trying desperately to avoid. The struggle to accept oneself. Self-acceptance becomes a central theme of Season 4, unfolding uniquely for each character. 11 attempts to adjust to high school life, quickly discovering that defeating monsters is easier than navigating adolescent social politics. Her arc becomes almost mythic. She voluntarily returns to the place she once fled, confronts the symbolic death of her father figure, grows beyond her trauma, and reclaims her powers. It's a hero's journey wrapped in sci-fi tragedy. Other characters face similarly painful confrontations with themselves. Will begins to recognize his sexuality and his unspoken feelings for his best friend. Max, consumed by guilt and anger she refuses to acknowledge, wrestles with grief over her brother's death. Her emotional repression makes her one of Vecna's prime targets, until she finally admits the feelings she's been burying. Season 5 is the final chapter, the last trip back to Hawkins. The Duffers have already said it will be darker, bigger, and far more emotional. Not just the end of the Upside Down story, but the end of childhood for these characters. The stakes are higher, the threats are real, and the finale is meant to hit harder than anything we've seen before. Whatever happens, Season 5 isn't just closing the story, it's closing an era. So we shouldn't criticize Stranger Things for cliches or historical liberties. These are deliberate stylistic choices. Though steeped in nostalgia, the series ultimately speaks to the present. And perhaps the most important message it leaves us with is this. While it's tempting to romanticize the past, we must never lose connection with who we are and with the world we live in today.
Be running up that hill, be running up that bill.